what's up? My name's Leah. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. So this week we're going to be doing a spooky reading vlog where I'm going to be reading a bunch of spooky book recommendations from Bookstagram and Booktube, and basically a lot of these books were ones that have been really popular in 2024 and I just haven't gotten around to reading them. Some of them were not even on my radar really until around Summerween when people started reading a bunch of spooky books, and so a lot of these were recommended around Summerween, and then since then during Halloween and spooky season they've come up more and more, and so I just felt like I really need to read them. And so let's go ahead and talk through the little TBR I have for this vlog. So the first one I want to read is We Used to Live Here. So this is a haunted house story that's been super popular in 2024. The next one I have is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. So this is a haunted film story, and I've never read Paul Tremblay before, and this was not originally something that really intrigued me based on the synopsis, but I've heard a lot of people that I follow on Goodreads and Booktube say that it's one of their favorite horror books of the year. I also really want to read Never Whistle at Night. This is a Indigenous horror anthology that I've heard is dark and creepy, but incredibly well written and good. I also want to read Woodworm by Layla Martinez. This is one that Kayla from Books and Lala read during Summerween and said it was really good. And since then I've been seeing it popping up more and more on Booktube and Bookstagram, and so I'm really curious about that. It's a pretty short novella, and I believe it was translated from Spanish as well. And I also really want to read We Come Out at Night. This is a queer horror anthology that's about cryptids. And I think that Wren from the Reading Wren was the one who recommended this. I think they posted it on their Instagram story like during Summerween. And I remember thinking it looked really good, and I haven't heard anybody talk about it since then, and so I really want to give it a go and just see what I think. I also really want to read Hauntings and Company by Lizzie Strong. So this is one that I feel like nobody's really talked about, but it's one that came up on my radar after I read another book from this author, and I read that one during my Summerween vlogs, and I really enjoyed it. And so I really want to try Hauntings and Company because it's set in the same world, following like different characters that we saw in the other book that I read, and so I'm just really curious to check it out. And then next we have The Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder. So this is one that is more of like a murder mystery, which is not something I normally pick up, but I have been seeing this around on Booktube and Bookstagram, and I've heard like some mixed things about it though, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it or not, but I saw a copy at my local indie bookstore the other day and it looked really good, so I wanted to try that one out. And then next we have Butcher and Blackbird. So this one has been all over BookTube, Book Talk, Bookstagram, everywhere, and it's a serial killer romance. And I've heard it's very spicy and very gory, and basically it's about these two serial killers who kill other serial killers, and they end up running into each other and like falling in love, I guess. And the last one I have is Monster Camp. So this one, again, was from a Instagram story. So this girl, Rebecca, that I follow on Bookstagram, posted a picture of this during Summerween, and it looked fabulous. I love this cover. It's so cute. It's a like spooky middle grade following this girl who thinks she's a vampire, or like role plays as a vampire, even though she's a human, and she ends up going to this camp for monsters in the summer. And that's all I really know. But Rebecca is like the best middle grade like book recs person that I have found, in terms of like she and I have really similar tastes in middle grade, and she usually recommends stuff I've never heard anybody talk about before, so I really want to check that out. So that's kind of my TBR for this vlog. Also in this vlog, Peyton and I are going on our honeymoon, and we're also going on a trip to Minnesota during that time. And so there's also a lot of like travel stuff in here and going on adventures. And we're also going to a like botanical garden while we're in Minnesota and doing all these different things. So I'm just going to take you along with me. So if that sounds interesting, then keep on watching and let's get into the vlog. Hi, honey. making biscuits. What kind of biscuits are you making? Are they buttermilk? Hey, who's throwing acorns at me? Who's it? Hello, so Peyton and I are back from our Arboretum adventures, and I have a big reading update for you. So I finished Woodworm. So this ended up being a novella, and it was really good. I think I'm gonna give it a 4-star. I really enjoyed it, actually. It's originally written in Spanish, and it was translated to English, and it's one that Kayla from Books and Lala read, and I think she really liked it as well. There's a lot of like friends of mine from Goodreads and Bookstagram and Booktube and all kinds of places that gave this like 4 and 5 stars as well on Goodreads. So I guess I'm not the only one who's into this, which is cool. But it reminded me a little bit of Hurricane Season by Wren and it also was a haunted house story. So there's a lot of ghosts in this house, but they're less ghosty and more like shadow entities, if that makes sense. So we're following this young girl who, I think she's like a teenager, and she lives with her grandma in this haunted house, and the house is very reactive to their emotions, and the walls will like shake and stuff if they fight. And there's these shadow creatures that like live in the walls and stuff. Like when the house was originally built, sorry if you hear Rigby crying, I might have to let him out. He does not like being away from people. Anyways, so when the house was originally built, they basically built it on the bones of like other people, and the guy who originally built the house was our main character's like great grandfather, and he was super creepy. He was basically a pimp, and he forced some of the local women to be like prostitutes and then made money off of them. And there's a lot of like poverty and generational trauma in this story, and it was really interesting. Basically we're following dual POV from the granddaughter and then the grandma with their experiences in this town. And there's this one family in particular that the grandma has had like this feud with for many years, and I think they are like close neighbors basically, and they are really wealthy, and they have just like always treated the grandma's family like shit, and her husband was their foreman, and basically they treated him like garbage, and she used to work for them too, and then she quit when she got pregnant because she didn't want to like start a scandal in their house and stuff. But anyways, there was like beef between her and this family, and one day she found out something bad that they did, and she had her friend like bring her some hair from the hairbrush of the senora who is like the mom of the family. And our main character, grandma lady, she made this little bundle. She's kind of like a witch in some ways. She made this little bundle with the hair and put it in the wardrobe. There's this haunted wardrobe in the house, and so now when the main characters want some guy to die, they'll invite him into their house and lead him to the wardrobe, and the shadow like spirits in there will pull people in and kill them. Anyways, so the grandma like puts this hair bundle thing with like magic and stuff into the wardrobe, and then the spirits that she prays to. She prays to like saints and angels and stuff, and they will make bad things happen to the people that she makes the bundles for, like with their hair and stuff. And so the senora like fell down the stairs in her house and broke her leg, and the house almost burned down at one point. And then I think her husband or her son, one of them, he like broke both of his wrists on a hunting trip, like all in the same week. And so all the people in the village are like really superstitious and stuff, and they believe in these saints and angels and things. And so the grandma in particular, she can see the saints, and they will come and like talk to her. And when they talk to her, she's almost in like a comatose state. Like they take over her mind, and they tell her things that are going to happen in the future, and they tell her about things that have happened in the past that people have forgotten about. And so she knows a lot of stuff, and people come to her for favors and whatnot to try and get revenge on other people. And so she's basically like made a living on like helping people who've been hurt like continue that cycle of violence in some ways. And it's really interesting. I really like the writing style. It's very like feminine rage and stuff, but there's also this haunted element with the house, and it's just really, really good. It was very entertaining. There's also a whole nother plot with the granddaughter, because she was babysitting for the family that they have the feud with. This is like a few generations later, and she's babysitting the kid of one of the guys who may or may not have killed her mom. And the little son is just a total brat, and she's babysitting him. And then one day something happens to him, and he goes missing. And the police think that she did it, and she kind of talks about whether she did or not. And there's a whole backstory there, but it's really interesting. All the mentions of generational trauma are interesting, and the women in this house are not able to leave the house, and even when they die, their spirits still are like stuck inside the walls. And so that's like sad and stuff, but it's just interesting to see how their lives kind of unfold, and how there's all these generations of poverty and violence and rage and stuff that kind of is like pent up inside of them. And the grandma talks about like being able to see that darkness in her granddaughter, and how she was really looking out for it in her daughter, and she kind of didn't realize it until it was too late. And there's just a lot of interesting things. And all of the women in the family had kids really young with guys that they like weren't really in love with. And yeah, they all have like really sad lives, which is why it kind of reminds me of hurricane season, with the cyclical nature of violence in this village, and the different generations of people who all go through like really similar things, and they're all kind of trying to break away from it, but none of them can really manage to do so. Anyways, also the saints and angels in this story are not like humanoid like you might think of angels, like little cherubs or whatever. They are like big bugs, almost like praying mantises and stuff, and that's kind of why they're on the cover with the like the big bugs in the spooky house and stuff. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and so I'm giving it a 4. It was really powerful, I think, for being a novella. Like, it wasn't that long. I think it was like 160 pages, which is part of why I wanted to read it first, to try and like get a quick win on this vlog and like really get some momentum going with my reading. But it was really good and memorable for being a novella, and so I would recommend it if you like spooky books or haunted house stories, or books about like witches kind of, and like cursing other families. In some ways it reminds me a little bit of They Drown Our Daughters, with the generational story about these women and a family, not curse, but kind of like the ways that they can use some sort of like witchy magic and prayer and stuff to kind of like wreak havoc on other people. Very interesting. Similar vibes to that book, I would say, but also similar vibes to Hurricane Season, but not like as nasty or like violent or gory or anything like Hurricane Season. It wasn't that kind of horror. So anyways, I really liked it. And then I also started reading The Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder. So this one I kind of just picked up on the whim. I'm reading the ebook, and it's on Everand, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I think for me it's probably sitting at like a 3.5, but I'm also still like feeling like I want to keep picking it up. I haven't had a moment where I'm like, oh, I kind of want to just set this aside. So there's that. It's compelling, but there are parts of it where it gets really repetitive, and I don't really like that part of it. So we're following these two women, Carol and Freya, and Freya used to be an antiques hunter when she was younger, like in her 20s. Basically, she knew this guy, Arthur, who's really good friends with her Aunt Carol, who basically raised her when she was a kid after her family died in a fire. Carol took her in and raised her up, and Carol and Arthur were besties, and Arthur had this antiques shop that he ran, which was really a front for the antique hunting stuff that he did on the side. And basically that was like, he would go and hunt down artifacts that were like stolen from different people, and he would try and retrieve them, and he was able to like identify antiques and like different brands and tell people how much they were worth and stuff like that. But the main thing he did was like sneak into places where people, like rich people, had private collections or whatever of stuff that they had stolen from others, and he would steal it back. And he had to like hunt them down and figure out where things were located and then get in and out without getting caught. And so Freya was kind of his apprentice. And then something happened a long time ago in Cairo with the two of them on some kind of like antique hunting mission they were on. And she like hates his guts now. And then the prologue opens from Arthur's POV, and he is at his antique shop, and somebody's broken into the shop, and he knows that they're there to kill him. And he knows he's about to die. And he's just like hoping that Freya can figure out what is going on. And then chapter 1, we find out that he did in fact get killed, and the police are saying that it like wasn't any big deal, that he just like fell down the stairs and had a stroke or whatever. And Freya and Carol are like, no, like something's not right. There's some things in the shop that aren't right, that are like missing. And he left some clues for them. And so they're basically going around following his clues, and some of them they find like inside of antiques or like chest drawers and things that have like a false bottom. He left like some journals, so they're following some of the instructions in the journals, and it's kind of leading them on this whole adventure to try and figure out what happened to Arthur and who killed him and what he was really into like towards the end of his life. But also our main character Freya is getting out of this really toxic marriage that she was in with this guy. His name is James, and they got a divorce, and they're selling the home that they live in together, and she's really sad about it. Her daughter Jade has now gone off to college, and so she's kind of at this weird point in her life where like her nuclear family is kind of imploded, and her aunt is grieving the loss of her friend Arthur. And so she says, hey, like, can you come and stay with me? Like, you know, I'm grieving the loss of my friend, and I need you to help me figure out who killed him. And so Freya agrees and goes back to live with her aunt, and the whole thing is set in England as well, which is kind of cool. And so there's a lot of talk about like tea, and there's like some British language in here and stuff like that. But basically they are now going to this estate, and Arthur kind of left them some like breadcrumbs leading them to this estate, and there's something fishy going on there. And I think the person who killed Arthur is one of the people who's staying at the estate for this like antiques sale kind of, because one of Arthur's friends was also killed, and right after his friend was killed he went to his solicitor and was like, hey, I want you to write me a will like right now. And so I think whoever killed the friend also killed him, and so there's some mystery going on at the friend's estate with his kids. There's some antiques there that are like fakes, but there's also supposed to be real ones on the property, and so Freya's trying to figure that out and kind of dodge these people. And they've also had some people who have been like chasing them and stuff, so that's interesting. And then the Aunt Carol, she's super outgoing. She like used to be an actress and stuff, and so she's got this really big personality, so she will kind of like be really chatty with people and like make a big scene so that Freya can like sneak around the room and like spy on people and like look in the rooms and try and find clues and things like that. So anyways, it's fun so far. It's definitely like more of a lighthearted murder mystery, and there's some action and like some chase scenes and things like that, but there are times where it gets really repetitive because Freya keeps bringing up how like she used to have this super adventurous life when she was hunting antiques, and she was really like bold and outgoing and stuff, and then when she was married to this turd guy James, she kind of like made herself really small and abandoned that whole life because he kind of tried to intentionally isolate her. And so she's kind of trying to get back to the person that she used to be. And Carol is trying to help her with that as well. And so sometimes she just kind of like is in her head monologuing about the same stuff over and over, or like they'll tell us some kind of clue and then 5 pages later they'll be like, oh yeah, that person who did blah 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 or is related to so and so, and it's like, yeah, I know, dude, you just told me 5 pages ago. Like, I'm not a goldfish, I can remember. So that's a little bit annoying, but I think this is also a debut novel, so I will say it's holding my attention. I still am like actively excited to pick it up, but there are some times where it gets too repetitive and it gets irritating and kind of pulls me out of the story a little bit. But I do like murder mysteries. I just haven't read one in a really long time, so I think part of it for me is like it's exciting and intriguing because the genre is not something I read all the time, but overall it's good. And then I did end up starting the very beginning of Hauntings and Company a little bit. It wasn't the first one I picked up, but I did read like the first couple chapters. So we're following Marcus, who is an elf, I think, and he has these like mind powers, and he runs this company called Hauntings and Company where he is selling various like goods to people for like magic spells and potions and things like that. It's like potion ingredients, and his assistant guy, who he's really close friends with, convinces him to hire some sort of like cheery assistant. And Marcus like begrudgingly agrees, and his assistant guy goes and finds this lady who's an elf, and she's also a warlock, and so she's pretty powerful, but she looks more human, and so she becomes like the personal assistant to Marcus and is like helping him with stuff. And immediately he is like super attracted to her and super into her, and he's trying to like not make it weird because he's her boss. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We also get to hear from her POV because it's dual POV, and she is struggling because she's trying to find a job, and her bestie, who is also powerful, she is like been setting her up on all these interviews and stuff with people that she knows, and our main character is like, this is not working for me because she's a warlock, and in her head she has this god of Cthulhu who like talks to her and stuff. And so some of these jobs require you to do like a warlock skills test or whatever. Well, when she does that, the people can like see the Cthulhu in her mind, and they get super freaked out. So the last interview she had went like really, really bad, and it wasn't that she like couldn't perform the magic stuff, because she can, she's really strong, but they saw the Cthulhu in her, and they basically say that she's like an abomination, and like screamed at her, and she like ran out crying. And her friend is like, what's wrong with you? Like, why can't you get any of these jobs? And blah, blah, blah. And her friend like knows about the Cthulhu thing. So I don't know why she's being so hard on her about it. But basically they're like having a dispute about that. And our main character is like, I'm just really struggling. Like, the Cthulhu god in my head is kind of just like interfering with my ability to get a job right now. And that's kind of where we're at. So that's why she takes the job with Marcus, is because she really needs a job, and he also has a history of hiring people who are like magic beings, especially ones that are a little bit more unique or like scary looking or whatever. So she's not scary, but she kind of has this scary thing in her that freaks other people out. So he's like, yeah, I'll hire you, and his friend recommends her and stuff. So that's where we're at. That's kind of the very beginning of it, and I'm really excited to get into it. I think it's going to be very spicy and very fun because they have some really good chemistry right off the bat. And I also really like the main guy, Marcus. He is pretty chill, and you can tell he's very like smart and a good businessman, and he seems to be a good guy. Like, his employees really like him, and he's really kind to them, and so I'm excited to see where it goes. I like that there's some unique creatures in here that I haven't seen in other monster romances, and everybody seems to have like unique powers and stuff. So anyways, overall, everything that I've read, I've enjoyed, and I feel like I'm finally back into like my reading groove. I was getting kind of slumpy there for a little bit, but I think I'm back because I've been doing a lot of reading in the last like couple of days. So anyways, I'm gonna go do some more reading, and I will talk to you later. Hello. So today is actually my 25th birthday. Happy birthday to me. I have been at work all day at the office. I was gonna take annual leave, but a bunch of fires basically started on a bunch of projects, and so I was like, JK, I'm not going to take time off. So I was at the office all day, but I'm going to go home. I really want to make peach cake with Peyton tonight, and I'm excited about that. But I also did a little bit more reading of the Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder last night and this morning, and it's okay. It's kind of mid right now. Our main character, Freya, clearly has some like past trauma that she's dealing with that's related to why she stopped hunting antiques, and it seems like there was a spicy man involved in why she decided to like stop doing that. And also this guy Arthur who died, the guy who they're investigating his murder, also had something to do with like the man she was in love with and the whole like drama that went down in Cairo. So anyway, she's having like flashbacks to that time while she and Carol are at this manor investigating these other missing antiques and trying to figure out who killed their friend. And it's kind of weird. It's like she's having these flashbacks. They're so vivid that it's kind of making it confusing as to what is happening in the present timeline at this house. There's a lot of different characters at this house. There's 3 men who are all shady AF, and I think they're probably going to try to kill Freya and Carol. But yeah, it's a little convoluted, it's a little repetitive, it's a little bit like, girl, I wish you would stop sobbing over your dead lover and just find the killer. But other than that, it's fine, I guess. So anyways, I'm gonna continue reading that. Some girl is staring at me because I'm talking to myself in my car. It's fine. Anyways, I'm gonna continue reading that a little bit tonight, but I might also start something else just because I don't want to get into a reading slump with this book, and I don't want to like lose my reading momentum. So maybe I'll start a romance tonight and eat some peach cake, and then tomorrow is the start of a 3-day weekend, which I'm super excited about. So I think this weekend I'm going to do some book shopping. I would love to go to the used bookstore, and I'm also thinking about driving to the next town over with Peyton and maybe going to Barnes & Noble, because I haven't been to a Barnes & Noble since like last December, so it's been like close, coming up on a year. So I think it might be fun to go and do some book shopping, I think. So that's kind of what I'm feeling, and I will update you later. hello, update. I have now lived a few more days of life since I saw you last. So on my birthday, we went out to dinner, and we also found a cool desk out by the dumpster by our place. And so I decided to bring it in and make it kind of my new editing workspace in the living room. And so I was painting that and stuff, and so that was really cool. So we got a new table. But in terms of reading, I finished The Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder, and I think I'm gonna give it a 3-star, but barely a 3. It's teetering on a 2.5 or a 3, because the last half, oh my god, the main character, Freya, got really obnoxious. She was finding clues around the manor as to who killed her lover and who killed her friend Arthur. And she was just being a total airhead about certain things. She found a box that had some photos in it and stuff. And they were photos of her man in Cairo right before he got killed. And she was like, oh, well, maybe the photographer did it, when there's fully a picture in her hand of a guy with blood on his shirt and stuff. And I'm like, girl, what? Can you rub your two brain cells together for 2 seconds? Maybe the person who killed him is the dude in the picture who has blood on them. No shit. And there was a couple other weird parts in the last half of the book with just things that the author put in where I was like, this is just dumb, you know what I mean? And it's obvious, and if the main character was really as good of an antiques hunter and good at sleuthing and stuff she says she is, she wouldn't be doing this stuff. At one point she gets locked in a vault, and she just sinks down to the floor and cries about it. I'm like, girl, you have 2 bobby pins in your pocket that you put in there because you know how to pick locks. Why are you sitting on the floor crying? Pick the lock and leave, you know what I mean? Just shit like that, where it's why are you being a useless whiny baby right now? This is dumb. But overall I liked the cozy mystery vibe of it, but there was just some stuff towards the end I didn't like, and I did like the end reveal of who the killer was. That did take me a little bit by surprise, so I appreciate that, but getting there was painful at times. So that's my 2 cents on that. I also went on Goodreads and I realized that some other booktubers also gave it 2 stars, so I'm definitely not the only one who feels this way. That seems to be the general consensus, is that people give it a 2 or 3. But I also started Butcher and Blackbird, and I'm really enjoying this so far. It opens with one of the main characters, Salone. She is a serial killer who kills other serial killers, and she is really strategic about who she goes after, and they call her the Orb Weaver because she will remove people's eyeballs and then string them up and other body parts up with fishing line, and almost a spider web kind of thing, which is really creepy but also kind of cool. And so we're following her, and she has just killed a guy, and she's at his house, but he pushed her into a cage and locked her in right before he died, and so she's been stuck in his basement with his corpse in the middle of Louisiana in the summer with no AC. And so it's just her and this disgusting rotting corpse full of maggots. And then this guy comes in, and turns out he's also a serial killer, and he was at the place to kill the guy that she already killed. And they kind of have this moment of they both know the other one's a killer, and so he lets her out and basically asks her on a date, and then the story goes from there. And it's really interesting so far. The 2 people, Rowan and Salone, have really good banter, and I like them a lot, and they kind of strike up this competition with each other that involves different things, and whoever wins gets to kill a certain person, because they realize that some of the people that they've been going after, they're both going after the same person, and usually just one of them gets there before the other one does, and they didn't realize that they were both going after the same kind of folks sometimes. So anyways, it's interesting. I'm really excited to get into it. I think their romance is going to be really spicy, but there's also definitely that kind of gritty serial killer vibe to it too. And I'm actually super into it. So anyway, so the reading with this is going good. The reading with my last book was okay. It wasn't fabulous. But that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm going to go to bed, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Hello, sir. Hi. Oh, little meep. Hello, good morning. I'm a hot mess express. If you couldn't tell by my little flyaways, my little baby hairs, and this little rat tail in the back, we are getting married in like 3 days, and I just feel like I do not have my shit together. I need to clean my entire house because we have one of the bridesmaids who's gonna come and stay with us. My cat is screaming presently. I need to do some serious reading, and we also need to paint some cornhole boards and do some other prep for the wedding. So, I think I'm gonna go deep clean my house, but I want to listen to the audiobook of Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay while I do that, so that we can kill two birds with one stone. However, I am the most hesitant about a horror movie because I feel like I'm not gonna like it. So if it's bad, I'm gonna DNF it. But we'll just see how it goes, because who knows, maybe everybody's right and maybe it's really, really good, but it's not something that I would normally pick up on my own. So we're going to take a little bit of a risk and start that audiobook today. And then I'll give you a little bit of a reading update probably after I've cleaned a few things. And so that's the plan for today. We're going to clean, we're going to be productive, we're going to do a little montage of me being productive, and we're going to go from there. Good morning. So a lot has happened since I updated you last. So last time we talked, I think I was working on the cornhole boards for the wedding. So those ended up turning out really, really good. And then we had the wedding and it was wonderful. Actually, I was so nervous there at the end, but it turned out so good. It was so nice to see our friends and family. The venue ended up being perfect. The florist did a great job. Everything was gorgeous. And then we went to Montana for the first part of the honeymoon, and we went to the hot springs, and that was great. I didn't get a ton of footage just because I decided I wasn't going to vlog the wedding, just because it's a really personal thing for Peyton and I. And I was also just like really nervous about everything coming together, and our family was there and our friends were flying in. There was just a lot going on. And I was like, you know what? This is like a really special thing for us, and I don't need to vlog everything. You know, I already do a lot of videos on YouTube, and so does Peyton, and we're really involved with all that stuff. And so we were like, you know, let's just do like a, you know, no phones. We're not going to work. We're not going to film. We're not going to do any of that during like the wedding stuff. And so we didn't. And honestly, I'm glad. I think that it turned out great that way. So anyways, we went to Montana, and then we were there for a couple days, and then we came home and then flew out to Minneapolis. So I'm currently in Minneapolis in a Verbo, just hanging out. Peyton and I need to go find food because obviously I can't bring food on the plane with me really. And so I have food allergies, so we got to go figure that out. this morning, but I wanted to update you because I've been doing a ton of reading since I talked to you last, between like the flights and everything. So I read some more Butcher and Blackbird on the plane yesterday, and it's so good. Oh my god, what a great read up for the plane. The first flight we took, we were sitting in front of these dudes, and in the town that we currently live, there's basically like a little religious cult, which is kind of weird. And the guys who were sitting behind us were definitively from the religious cult, and it was not the vibe having to listen to them. It was like the longest 45 minutes of my entire life. I was trying really hard not to like turn around and yell at these men. Anyways, so Butcher and Blackbird was cathartic for me in that sense, because there's a female serial killer in here, and that was really nice to read about in that moment. And anyways, it's going really well. The romance in here, so far there hasn't been any like spicy like physical scenes or anything like that, but there is a lot of like really good banter and sexual tension between the two main characters, and both of them are serial killers, but they are serial killers who kill other serial killers, which is really cool. And they kind of start this competition with each other where they get like a town location from the main guy's brother, Lachlan. And Lachlan, I think, is going to be the love interest in book 2 with our main character Salone's best friend Lark. So I'm really excited to read book 2 as well. But anyways, so Lachlan is in with some shady dudes, and he's also a killer, but I think he's more of like a hitman. And so he's really in with like some weird people. And so he knows like through the grapevine about who some of these bad serial killers are. So he gives a location to Salone and Rowan, and then they go and they have this competition to figure out who is the serial killer, and whoever figures it out first and kills them wins. And they do this annually every year. They go to a different place and like have this whole thing. And anyways, they're starting to really like each other and get to know each other. And they have also begun kind of like randomly showing up to each other's like houses or places of work or whatever, kind of secretly, and like doing little things so the other one knows that they're there. And they have a burner phone where they text and stuff, so their texts are also included in the book, which is fun. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm really excited for when their romance like really kicks off. Like they're still kind of like in the friend zone, but clearly very flirtatious with each other and very into each other, but like neither one of them wants to like mess up the relationship or like scare the other person off. And there's also some really like kind of gory and intense murder scenes in here. So if you were into like some of the eyeball stuff in Mayfly, that's kind of Salone's specialty. They call her the orb weaver because she like pops people's eyeballs out or whatever. But she's also really artistic, and at the crime scenes she leaves these like webs that she makes out of fishing line, and there's like clues in there as to like who this person is and who they killed and all that stuff, but the FBI hasn't been able to figure that out yet. So she's really like crafty and methodical about it. And Rowan is a little more like just no control, just like goes off the handle at people, and just like bare hands will like kill them. But he is also very thoughtful though, and very charming about how he gets to these people. And so they're both really like intelligent and smart and cunning and all that. So it's kind of fun to watch them like go head to head and have little competitions and stuff, and also just be like really flirty. And Rowan is also a chef, and so there's some parts in here where he like drops off food at her house and then will call her and be like, okay, we're gonna cook together on the phone, like I'm gonna walk you through it. And then they end up just like talking and like basically having dinner together over the phone, which is cute. And it's just fun, and I'm really enjoying it. It's saucy, it's entertaining, it's a great read for like traveling or being on a plane, just because you can get really engrossed in it. So that's going great. Also, I started what is it called? Oh, Monster Camp by Sarah Henning. So this one is a middle grade. Hold on, this phone is getting heavy. That says a lot about my arm situation here. Anyways, so I'm reading Monster Camp by Sarah Henning as well, and that one's also really fun. I will say I think it's probably sitting at like a 3.5 for me right now, but it's a middle grade, and we're following this girl Sylvie who is really into LARPing, which is like live action role play, but specifically she likes to do that as a vampire. So she basically thinks that she like is a vampire. Like when she's dressed up as a vampire with the fangs and everything, she feels like herself. Like she doesn't feel like a human, if that makes sense. And she also gets bullied really bad at school because she likes to wear her fangs and stuff. And the bullies are just like asshole guys or whatever. And she doesn't have a lot of friends. Her mom has passed away. Her dad is like working construction, so I think he's kind of like busy with work and stuff. But basically she's kind of struggling. She's like sad and she's kind of down, and she just wants to be a vampire. She's really into like different monster movies and cryptids, so like she watches a lot of like Addams Family and stuff, and she watches her mom's old monster movies. Like her mom was very into like cryptids and stuff too, and her dad is like, you need to live in the real world and make like real friends and like stop pretending to be a vampire and stuff. So he's like, okay, you should go to a summer camp, like make some friends, it'll be great. And so he brings home all these pamphlets or whatever for her to pick one. Well, one of the ones in there is for monster camp, and she finds it and she's like, this is the one, like I want to go. And he's like, no, absolutely not, like that defeats the whole purpose of why you're going to camp in the first place. So he totally tears her down, and they kind of have a fight about it. But it's kind of hard because you can tell that her dad really cares about her, like really deeply. However, he also has like a new lady that he's like starting to see. So he kind of mentions that like while she's at camp, he's going to go on a trip with this new woman, and they're going to stay over at a hotel and have a little vacay. And so there's a little part of me that was like, hold my hoops. You're going to go and ditch your daughter at some summer camp so you can go and piss fart around with some hoe? Like, don't do my girl Sylvie like that. But I don't know. I understand. He's a grown man. Whatever. He's moving on. But like Sylvie is like, dude, like you're going to go get it on with some lady? Like, no, I don't want to have a stepmom, you know? So I don't really like that aspect of the story. And her dad like pisses me off in some ways, but also like you can tell he's a loving single father. So like I'm conflicted about that a little bit, but whatever. So anyway, Sylvie goes to this camp, and basically she's like, okay, well, I have to go to a camp, so how am I going to do this? So she picks the camp next door to Monster Camp because she figured out that she can run through the woods to get to Monster Camp. So she does. She basically lies to her dad, and she feels really bad about lying. But then when he's talking about meeting up with his girly pop, then she's like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to go to Monster Camp. I'm going to lie to you because this is what I want to do. And it's going to be actually like fun for her at Monster Camp. So she does. She gets dropped off at the other camp, runs to the forest, goes to the new camp. And she gets there and realizes that like all the kids and the like adults there are dressed up like to the nines like monsters. And she's like, oh wow, their costumes are like so elaborate and beautiful, like how did they do that? And she just thinks they're all like humans just faking it. And then she gets into the camp a little bit and realizes that these are real monsters. Like the camp is for paranormal monster children. And so she's then freaked out because she's a human and she's cosplaying as a vampire, basically. And so she realizes she has to be like dedicated to the bit and like comes up with a backstory, all this stuff. But she does make friends. Like she is like meeting people, and there's another girl there who's a vampire, and they end up like rooming together because each of the little summer camp cabins is magical and is based on like a different creature's like needs. So they get to be in this like magic vampire like gothic castle cabin, which is really cool. And then there's other ones for other creatures, like there's a witch's cottage and stuff. It's really cute. The setting in this book is incredible if you're into cryptids and monsters and paranormal stuff, or you want like a really good read for Halloween and you like middle grade. This would be really great. It's got the summer camp vibes and the summeriness that I think really lends itself well to Summerween, but just the setting of like this magical camp where the cabins are like special and magical, and the camp counselors, there's like one that's a yeti, and there's one that's a chimera, and there's one that has like this giant magic bird, and there's all these different creatures at the camp too. There's a little Frankenstein guy, there's an invisible man, there's some girls who are like, I'm not sure what exactly they're called, like nymphs or like something like that. Anyways, very cool. There's also some werewolf guys here, and those guys are kind of bullies. So Sylvie's still kind of navigating the like bullying situation with these other dudes, but it's interesting. and I'm really enjoying it. The setting is so cute. There's also like magic volleyball courts, and there's a magic like lake, and the Loch Ness Monster lives in there. Oh my god, so cute. So I'm really enjoying that. I will say there are some like slow parts in the stories. I think that's why I'm kind of sitting at like a 3.5 and not like higher. But other than that, I'm really enjoying it. And then also I read some more, and I'm almost done with horror movie by Paul Tremblay. So I was listening to that last time I talked to you, and I have to say I'm so surprised at how much I'm enjoying that. It's sitting at like a solid 4 for me, I think. I am really loving the audiobook. It's kind of funky because there's parts in it where it sounds like the voice actors are doing like more than one take, but I think that's intentional because it's supposed to sound like they're filming a movie. And we get some parts from the present with our main character, and then we get some parts from the past when he was filming the movie, when he was playing the thin kid. And it's really interesting because this character that he's playing, the thin kid, is like, I don't even know what to say, basically like being abused by his friends in the film, and he's required to wear a mask like the entire time, basically. And when he has the mask on set, he's not allowed to talk. And this mask is this weird thing where the girls who are deciding to film the movie, there's one that's the director and one, Cleo, who wrote the script for the film. Cleo was in this like old abandoned school one time when she was home from college in the summer, and she found supposedly this mask in the school one day, and it's super creepy. It is kind of like Creature of the Black Lagoon or whatever, kind of scaly monster looking thing. But basically she decided to write a whole screenplay based off of this mask. And the movie's kind of about like the friends of this thin kid like doing awful, horrific things to him just because they can, and how terrifying that is, and how like everybody's a monster. Not necessarily like just the people who look like monsters, like even the humans are monsters. Anyway, it's kind of cool, but it's really dark and gory and violent and scary, and you're like never sure what's going to happen to the thin kid next. And the guy who's playing the thin kid, our main character, he got so into his role that he basically like became the thin kid. Like he was all in, and he had no acting experience at all, but his friends were like, you have the body type for this, you know, you're kind of a weird guy, like we really want you for this role. And so he was like, okay, whatever, like they're gonna pay me, it's cool. And then he got really into it and decided to like do some extra things that he didn't really have to do, but also you can tell he's being kind of like softly manipulated by the director girl too. And oof, there's certain things that happen in here, like he lets them actually put a cigarette on his skin and burn him at one point for the role. He stays overnight in the creepy haunted school where they're shooting the film where they found the mask, like of his own volition, and decides he's just going to spend a night there like his character does to really get in the role. And he just gets really into it. And as the movie goes along, like bad things happen to him for real, and some of it is on set and some of it is kind of not. But anyways, the movie gets really intense, and people start thinking that it's a cursed film because of this mask, and also because bad things happened to like all of the people on set except him. Like they all have now passed away. And I think one of them passed away on set. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but they're like alluding to it. And the other ones passed away like just tragically, like car accident, cancer at a young age, like that kind of stuff. So he's like the only one from the original cast who's not dead. And basically he's been asked by this director lady to remake the movie, and they want him to play the thin kid again in the present. And so he, you can tell, like really wants to, and he still has the mask. And the director lady from the original film, the lady who was his friend, she told him right before she died of cancer, like, hey, I have a feeling that like people are going to want to remake this movie, and I want this movie to actually get made. But they didn't release it originally once they filmed the whole thing because one of their friends died on set at the end, I think. And so they still have all the old footage, and some of it got put on YouTube by the lady, the old director lady who was dying of cancer. Right before she died, she uploaded some stuff to YouTube and published the script and everything in the hopes that somebody would remake it. And she kind of coached him through, like, they're gonna approach you and you're gonna say yes, and you're gonna do like some signings of like some photos from the film and pictures with the mask and this and that, and then they're gonna ask you to be on set and you're going to do XYZ. And sure enough, like, it happened exactly the way that she planned it. So this whole thing was very, like, much orchestrated by the original director girl and her friend Cleo, who wrote the script. And they are interesting gals. Like, they organized this whole thing, and they were also actors in the movie too. And none of them had ever been actors before. But it's like they just, really like horror movies and were really, like, called to do this film. Anyways, but it's really creepy. It's weird. It's dark. You don't really know what's going to happen next. This guy who plays the thin kid, you can tell, like, he is weird, but also he let some really crazy things happen to him on purpose for this role and got super into it. And so, like, his whole life has basically been consumed by this movie that was never released, which is interesting. So anyways, all in all, I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would. It's a very quick read. The audiobook is really good. And I can see why people were super into this for Summerween. So anyways, basically, I'm enjoying everything that I'm reading right now. We're going to go have fun in Minneapolis, and I will talk to you later. boy. Boy kibble. Nice to meet you too! Mr. Toolie of the Toolie Toolies. What's this? Oh my god. Billy Boo! Oh my god. bunch of them. Oh, look. Very cool. Turquoise fish. So cool. Super cool. Big orange one. Big boy. little friend on your shoulder. It's Mr. Ladybug. Yep, he's hitching a ride on your back. Little girl and his 3 friends, little turtles. 3 little sweet turtles. Mr. Turtle is on an adventure. Look at him flapping his little feet. What a cutie patootie. Oh my goodness. You got the dogs out. Hi, Nellie Belly. Hi, sweet girl. How are you doing? Oh my goodness. Hello, so we are back from our trip and I wanted to give you a little bit of a reading update. So while we were traveling and on planes and whatnot, I was reading Butcher and Blackbird and I'm 162 pages in and I'm loving it. I genuinely think this is going to be a 5-star, like one of the best books I've read this year. I'm obsessed with it. I love the slow burn romance in here. I love how like nasty and gory it is in the scenes where our little serial killer duo is like tracking people down and taking out people who are bad news. And I love it. Honestly, fabulous. But I need to finish this. And I also was reading another book that's not like super relevant for this vlog, but I'm going to tell you anyways because it's really good. And it's called 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart. So this is by Jenna Rose Nethercott, who also wrote Thistlefoot. And I've been meaning to read that one, but I found this while we were in Minneapolis at one of the indie bookstores. And my friend Richie actually was like, hey, did you see this cover? Like, this looks like something you would really like. And so I started reading it while we were traveling around to different towns in Minnesota, and it's really good. So all of the stories in this collection are by the same author, and each one is kind of like eerie, but also has some different like magical elements to it. It's very good. It's very well written. It's very lyrical. It has not necessarily magical realism, but kind of that vibe, I guess, a little bit. There was one in here called The Thread Boy that I was reading while we were at a cafe in Minneapolis, and it was so good. I genuinely like almost started like tearing up at the coffee shop because it's about this boy who's made out of thread, and almost like a Pinocchio kind of a thing where this witch guy creates this boy out of thread, and then as the boy gets older he like goes off into the world and like lives his own life, but because he's made out of thread he decides to use like the thread pieces that he's made up of to like tie threads onto different people in his life that he wants to stay connected to, that he really cares about. So like when he leaves home he ties a piece of thread onto like his father's something or other, and then when he like meets a girl that he falls for, he ties a string onto her, and then at one point in his life he's got so many strings that he's tied onto people that he's created this like web, and he like can't move anymore. He's like immobilized because so many of his threads are like all over the world, and it's like a magical thread thing. So like when people that he cares about travel to like other countries or whatever, like the string stays attached to him. It just like pulls tighter so he can like feel when people are moving around the world. And his dad finds him at the end and is like, do you want me to like cut you free? Like you can't move. Like there's so many pieces of yourself that are everywhere. And the thread boy is like, no, like I want to be able to like stay connected to people, even if it means that he's like trapped in this like weird web and like can't move, basically. Anyways, it was really sad, but it was also really beautiful, and the writing in here is just really good, and all the stories have elements that I've never seen before. Like that thread one really kind of got me, especially because we were thinking about, you know, doing a cross-country move, and so that just like really kind of hit me in the heart. But there's other ones in here. Like the first one is about this magical staircase that goes down and down and down and down into the middle of the earth, and it's called the Eternal Staircase, and it's set on the side of a highway, so it's kind of this like weird attraction where people will pull over and like visit it and stuff, and people work there, but there's only like so many people who can work there at a time, because you're not supposed to work there more than like a couple of months, because the staircase will make you like go insane. And so there's these two girls who work at the staircase, and we get to see their POV, and one of them is in love with the other one. And so that's kind of interesting. And there's another one in here about a girl who can't stop drowning, and they don't know why. She was like fine as a kid, and then all of a sudden she hit a point where if she goes outside when it's raining, like she'll drown in a puddle, or she'll like drown in a glass of water or whatever. And it's about like her and her brother and their relationship to one another, and it's really beautiful as well. So this is a great collection, not super relevant to this vlog, but I'm going to share because it's a really good book. So that's kind of what I've been reading while we've been traveling. But I'm in the middle of a lot of books right now for this video, so I'm gonna go read, and I will update you when I finish something. Hello, I have a little reading update for you. So I finished 2 books since I talked to you last. So I just finished Monster Camp, which I really enjoyed. I think I'm going to give it like a 3.5. The end was very cute. Our main character Sylvie ended up making a lot of friends at Monster Camp, and she learned a lot about monsters in general and like which ones existed, and learned a lot of stuff she didn't know about her mom, and it was really cute. She also had some issues at the end though, because she kind of like lied to everybody at camp and told them that she was a vampire when she wasn't. And then she ends up like discovering more about her mom and like her own potential powers and stuff, which was really cool. So people were like mad at her because she lied, but it all kind of got like worked out in the end. So it was cute, and she kind of like worked things out with her dad as well. So I really enjoyed that. I highly recommend it if you like middle grade and you're really into like paranormal stuff or cryptids or anything like that, because there's a lot of different monsters in here, and the kids do a lot of different fun stuff at camp, like different games and stuff, and so it really gives you that like cozy summer camp vibe, and I loved it. Honestly, it was really fun. I think the only reason that it's not a 4 for me is because of all of the stuff at the end about like monster hunters that kind of came up. I felt like that wasn't like super necessary. It was a little bit weird and felt like it wasn't totally fleshed out, but other than that, I really enjoyed it. And then I also finished Hauntings and Company, and this one I'm gonna give it 4, almost 4.5. It was really, really good. I loved the way that everything wrapped up at the end with Marcus and his love interest, and also the love interest girl, Ophelia. Her mom in this is absolutely awful and is like trying to keep them apart and hates the fact that Ophelia is like off on her own, like trying to do her own thing in terms of like her career and her relationship with Marcus. And her mom is just like a really, really awful, toxic person. And she ends up standing up to her mom at the end. Ooh, it's so good. And she also kind of like comes to terms with her relationship with the god Cthulhu, who she has this like bond with. And she basically like sold her soul to him. And so at the beginning of the book, they're kind of like not beefing with each other, but like she's kind of having issues with him. And towards the end, things kind of work out because Cthulhu ends up liking her love interest Marcus, and so she's got this like voice of the god Cthulhu in her head, but he ends up realizing that Marcus is really good for her and really helps her like feel confident and is loving and caring towards her, and she doesn't have anybody else in her life who is like that except her like friend who's an elf, and then this god Cthulhu who like looks out for her. And so she ends up, you know, getting to have somebody who's really there for her and is a real like partner for her, and it's really cool. And there's a lot of good characters in here, and I really enjoyed all the character development and all of their like interpersonal relationships and banter and stuff. It was really fun. And there's also some really good spicy scenes in here too with like tentacle stuff if you're into that. And I feel like the middle kind of slowed down for me a little bit, but the end was really, really good, really strong, and I loved it, honestly. So I'm gonna give it a 4. It's definitely one of the better ones that I've read from Lizzie Strong. I think I've read 3 of her books this year, and I think How to Marry a Lich was my favorite, and then probably Hauntings and Company, and then the one that we read for book club, Cloak and Dagger Burlesque, is probably my least favorite, which is kind of unfortunate that we read that one for book club and not Hauntings and Company because it was really good. But anyways, that's kind of my reading update for you. And then I also started another book. I started We Used to Live Here, and I had to stop reading it last night because it's so creepy. And basically we're following this main character, Eve, and she just bought this old house, and it's in Oregon. It's like out in the backwoods in the Pacific Northwest in the middle of nowhere, and she and her girlfriend buy houses and like flip them and sell them. But they did one on the East Coast where they usually buy houses, and it didn't go so well, and so they're kind of like not doing great financially, so they decide, okay, we're gonna buy this like beautiful old Victorian house in Oregon that's run down and flip it. But they kind of get more than they bargained for, and so they have just moved into this house. And sorry if you hear Rigby crying, he's being a little turkey today, for real. Anyways, so they buy this house, and then they've just moved in, and Eve is home by herself, and her girlfriend's at work, and this family comes to the door, and it's a mom and dad and 3 kids. And the dad is like, hey, like, I used to live in this house, I grew up here, like, can I bring my kids in and like show them around? We're just like passing through town, whatever. And Eve is like a chronic people pleaser, and so she lets them into the house, which, first of all, hello, I would never in a million years, absolutely not. I'm like, they could be serial killers, they could be robbers, like, you don't know who these people are. Do not let them in your house. I don't care who they are. Anyways, but you can tell the dad is like pushy and kind of manipulative about it, and the little girl of the family is also like, you can tell, like, pretty openly manipulating Eve. And so when Eve is like, well, I don't really know, you know, like, the little girl starts like crying and like getting upset, and yeah, and then there's all these moments where like the family almost leaves because they're like, yeah, it'll just be like 10 or 15 minutes, we just want to like walk around. And then they do, and then the little girl like disappears, and the dad's like, oh, well, she likes to play hide and seek, like, we have to like go find her. And then she's like running around the basement, and the basement's super creepy. And they also have a dog that lives in the house too. Eve has a dog, Shiloh, and Shiloh is like growling at the basement door. Oh, it's creepy. It reminds me of the September house with like the basement and the layout and stuff. Ooh, creepy. So I'm already like really freaked out by this book. I've heard a lot of people say it's like really genuinely scary and really good, but I've also heard some people say that like the author put a lot of complex like secret stuff in here that like didn't really need to be there, it like didn't add to the story or whatever. So we'll see how I end up feeling about it, but I just started it. I may not finish it in this vlog because it's kind of a little bit longer, and I already have like a crazy TBR for this vlog anyways, so we'll see if I end up actually finishing it or not. But I do want to read some more of that, and then also start the 2 short story collections that I wanted to start, Never Whistle at Night, and then what is the other one called? The queer one. I'll put the cover up here. But I want to get into both of those as well. So those are the last 3 I need to get into, and then we'll wrap up this vlog. So I'm hoping tonight we can wrap it up and I can give you my final thoughts on all these books. Hello, so I have a reading update for you. I started one of the short story collections today, and I started We Mostly Come Out at Night, and this is a collection of queer like horror stories, and I'm loving this so far. I have to say it is a lot more like cryptid heavy than I thought it was going to be, in a good way. I've been reading a lot of books this year about like monsters and cryptids and stuff, and some of them I've kind of been stumbling upon by accident, and I think this is kind of one of those. Like, I think it mentions like the cryptids in the synopsis, but the cover doesn't really show them that much. And so basically these are marketed as horror stories, but I don't know, I would say that they're not like horror, if that makes sense. They're more like spooky, ooky, cryptid little stories, and they're very gay in a good way, and I'm really enjoying them. And so the first one was a male Beauty and the Beast like retelling short story, and it was so good and very atmospheric and fun, and I mean, maybe a little bit insta-lovey, but like it was such a good time. And then the second one is a kind of like the Little Mermaid retelling, but it's more like Ursula based, and this one is about these girls from Uruguay and their family, and you get to see some different women in the family, and they basically have a history of like praying to this one lady, and I forget what they call her. I think it's like Armanja or something like that. Anyways, basically our main character like prays to her and like does a little ritual to summon her, because she is starting to fall for her best friend, and she doesn't want to like mess up their friendship because these girls are like besties and they work together and stuff. And there's this like work accident where she like gets like injured, and her best friend is there to like help her and stuff, and she realizes in that moment that she's like super down bad for this girl, and it freaks her out really bad because she thought she was straight. And it ends up being really, really cute, but it's kind of cool because we get to see the sea witch lady, and she, you know, has like seaweed and like crabs in her hair and stuff, and it is basically like this giant tentacle monster. It's really cool. And then the next one is, I think that the next one is the Mothman one, I think. Is that right? I'll have to look at the table of contents, but there's also a Mothman one, which is the one that I'm reading right now, and it is really, really good. So we're following this kid, and he's like stuck kind of between a rock and a hard place. His parents passed away. He's living with his like aunt, and she is not well. She's like a heavy smoker, and she has this like really bad cough, and he can tell that like she doesn't have a super long time left, and they have like no money. His brother is 18, and he's basically selling drugs in order for them to be able to like pay the bills and like pay for his aunt's medication that she needs. And it's just rough. And our main character, he is also like in love with his friend as well, and his friend has run away because his parents found out that he was gay. And so anyways, our main kid, at the point I'm at right now, his brother has gotten busted by the cops, so they have no source of income, and the drug lord guy that his brother was working for basically came to their house and was like, you owe me $5,000. If your brother can't sell the drugs, then you're doing it because you owe me. And our main character's like, I don't want to do that, but I don't have a choice. His aunt like can't afford the bail money to get his brother out. His bestie slash the guy he has a crush on is in the wind and hasn't come back and hasn't like contacted him. He doesn't know where he is. And then there's this Mothman in the town, and the aunt is convinced that like the Mothman is a symbol of like something bad to come. Like you only see the Mothman right before something bad happens, like he's trying to warn you. And there's been a couple times where the boy has seen the Mothman, and so he like saw the Mothman right before his brother got busted by the cops. And anyways, the aunt says that like she saw the Mothman the night that their parents died in the car accident, and so that's really sad too. So anyways, I haven't gotten to the part yet where like, you know, anything like huge happens with the Mothman, so I'm kind of curious to see if the Mothman like helps save the kid or what the deal is, like if the Mothman is like somebody that he knows or something. Anyways, it's really good. It's very cryptid heavy, very just like fun and magical, and the writing in here is really good as well. All of the stories have been super well written, and I'm really loving it. So I think for me it's sitting at like a 4 right now, which is great because I feel like I've been reading a lot of anthologies lately that have been really, really good. So I'm super stoked about this one. I feel like I have finished a few books for this vlog. I'm also still in the middle of a few books for this video, but I had a really super ambitious TBR for this vlog, and I think in order for me to finish this up and get it up for you guys to see before Christmas, I'm gonna have to end it tonight, even if I don't finish all the books. So I don't know. I've seen some other booktubers lately talking about like how booktubers should like normalize not finishing all the books they start in their vlogs, but I think we all feel like, you know, we owe it to you guys to like tell you our final thoughts on everything. And so anyways, I think maybe I'll just have to like not finish them all this time around, because I want to get this video up so that I can do my other stuff that I have that's going to be coming out soon. So I have like a lot of vlogs and videos that I'm working on right now. So anyways, and I know this one's already going to be really long anyways. So I think tonight I'm going to start Never Whistle at Night. And I'm also going to read some more of the anthology that I'm currently reading. And then I know I still haven't finished the end of the audiobook for Horror Movie. I'm at like 80% through the audio. And then I also have not read the end of Butcher and Blackbird yet. So I think those are all the ones that I'm like still in the middle of. So in the middle of 4, which isn't too bad. But anyways, I'm going to read as much as I can tonight, and then we are going to wrap it up by midnight. Mark my words. Hello, so it's time to wrap up this reading vlog. So I started reading Never Whistle at Night as my last book for the vlog, and it's really, really good so far. I'm about like 30% of the way through. I've read 3 stories, and all of the stories in here are following different like Native American characters, and each one is by a different Native author. And so like Rebecca Roanhorse is in here, Darcy Little Badger has a story in here, and they're pretty like intense. So the first 3 that I've read have all been like pretty dark and like bloody, but they're really extremely well written. And the first one was about this young woman who's a Inuit, and she is in this like small village, and her family lives there, and it seems like it's kind of like outside of like Anchorage, Alaska, somewhere up in there, and there's these white people have moved in, and most of them are like men, and there's some that are really wealthy, and there's this one guy in particular who kind of likes to like whatever, be really flirtatious and like creepy with the village girls. And he forces her to tell her some stories late at night to him, and she does, and she tells him one about this like native spirit, and they call it the Kushtukna. I'm probably butchering that, but basically it's like this spirit that can like take on like the image of someone that you love, and they try to make you like go with them, and he's like, go with them where? And she's like, I don't know. And then sure enough, because she talked about it at night, it made the spirit come alive, and then the spirit starts, you know, trying to take out the white guys. And anyways, it's really, really good. And then the other one, the second one, is about this woman who's part Native American, but she's like white passing, and she marries into this really wealthy white family, and she gets pregnant. And it's big trigger warnings, I would say, for like child loss. Extremely creepy, very like eugenics vibes in this story once the white mother-in-law finds out that she's pregnant, and also finds out that she's not fully white. The family like absolutely turns on her, and it's horrific. It's also extremely well written, and also all these stories are like pretty short too, so like they're horrifying and they're dark and they're scary, but they're also like short and concise and like easily consumable and fun and spooky, and anyways, all the things. And then the last one I just read was a queer story, and we're following this Indigenous guy who ends up meeting this white guy when he's staying at his family's like summer home on the beach, and this white guy ends up being like really super creepy, and he collects teeth, and it turns out that some of the teeth might be from other native guys that he's dated before. Extremely creepy. Also trigger warnings in there for like serious lack of consent. Very creepy, but again, like super well written and very action packed, and had a really good, really strong ending. And so far, I'm really loving this collection. I do remember people saying that it was really dark, and I agree, but the stories are so poignant, and I just really love them. So I think I'm going to leave the vlog there. I just wanted to like go over my TBR for this vlog and like what I ended up reading. So I got like 30% of the way into We Used to Live Here. That one, I don't know. I'm not gripped by the story yet still. And I know a lot of people have said it's like one of their best books they've read in 2024, which is why I wanted to pick it up for this video, but I don't know. I'm not there yet. I think I just need to like keep reading a little bit more and see if it's for me. I don't know what it is. There's something about like the creepy family that the lesbian couple lets into their home that like they're creepy, and the book is obviously creepy, but there's nothing in the story that I can like latch onto. So like a lot of the other horror that I read, there's like some aspects of it that are like funny, or there's going to be like a really snarky main character or something like that. And in here it's like I'm not super attached to Eve, the main character. I'm not super attached to her girlfriend Charlie, and I'm not super invested in this creepy family. So I kind of feel like I don't have anything to like latch onto, if that makes sense. And then I'm 80% of the way into Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I am still really enjoying that. I just need to finish the audiobook. We talked about Never Whistle at Night. I finished Woodworm by Layla Martinez. I think I gave that like a 3.5 or a 4. It was good. but I don't know that it's one that's going to be like crazy memorable for me. And then I read Monster Camp by Sarah Henning, and that one was also really good. I think I'd give that one like a 3.5 as well. And then I'm still reading We Mostly Come Out at Night. I'm also like 30 or 40% of the way through. I think I've read like 4 stories in there, and they're all really good so far. I'm really enjoying that. The Mothman one ended up having a super good ending. And then I finished Hauntings and Company, and I gave that one 4 stars. That one was really good. I finished The Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder, and I think I gave that one like a 2.5 or a 3. That one ended up being kind of mid. And then I'm also like over halfway through Butcher and Blackbird, and I think that one's going to end up being a 5. So that's kind of where I'm sitting. If I had to rank them, I think I would say Butcher and Blackbird was my fave, and then probably Hauntings and Company, Horror Movie, Monster Camp, Horror Movie, Never Whistle at Night, We Mostly Come Out at Night, Monster Camp, Woodworm, We Used to Live Here, and then Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder at the end. Does that make sense? Anyways, I had a crazy big TBR for this vlog, and it was really ambitious. And also, we had our honeymoon, and we went on all the Minnesota adventures. So we did a lot in this vlog. I'm hoping it's not like an hour and a half long, because I think I'm probably going to have like a ton of raw footage for this video. So I'm going to do my best to cut it down. But if you made it to the end of this vlog, leave me a tooth emoji in the comments for the last story I read in Never Whistle at Night. And thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more bookish videos from me, make sure that you like and subscribe, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!